I worked in hospitality for a very long time, so it was only natural for me to go into travel, into the travel business. So I became a content creator for travel. It started off with me starting off with a blog at age 40, which, as many women do, we go through a bit of a big transition at 40 when we
Mhm.
start realizing, why am I living this life? Am I living it for me, or am I living it for
Mhm.
my husband, for my society, for my family, for my kids?
Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Welcome to the Human Design High Podcast. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome back to the Human Design Hive podcast. I am your host, Dana Phillips, and it's so nice to have you back here with me. And let me tell you, I have another amazing guest for you today. I have the pleasure of maybe introducing you to Riselle Celestina. And if you haven't heard of her already, she's known across the web as the Traveling Island Girl. And she is someone that I have been following for quite some time, been following her blog and her socials. And I've had her in mind for quite some time to bring her on as a guest on the podcast because really I just wanted to meet her. And it just so happens that things lined up perfectly last week that we were able to connect and I could bring her here on the show so that you guys could hear a little bit more about her as well. So, as I said, Riselle is known as the Traveling Island Girl, and she is a content creator and so much more that lives on the beautiful, wonderful island of St. Maarten in the Caribbean. She's been a resident there for the last 23 years, and really her blog started as just sharing her experiences of living in St. Maarten, but also traveling around the Caribbean. And she was giving travel tips, and it kind of morphed into something more than that, which I'm gonna let her tell the story because it's her story, and it's a really interesting story. And so we're bringing her on today because she has started this pivot in her business, which is going to be incorporating a lot more of the fullness that is Riselle. She's always loved travel, but she's really always felt called to work with women and personal empowerment. And travel is part of that vehicle that helps bring about these transformations in people. And I just love, love, love this direction she's going. It's one that I feel called to myself. So we just were really vibing on each other's energy and we had just such a great conversation. We're also going to dig into her design a little bit. She's new to human design, but really fascinated by it. And we just had such a great conversation. And let me tell you, I'm just thrilled for you to meet her today. And I think once you hear our conversation and you get just this little taste of her beautiful energy, you're probably going to want to be working with her as well. She has a retreat coming up. So make sure you listen to the episode when you'll hear more about this beautiful, this retreat sounds amazing. And if you don't snatch it up, I just might. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to the interview, and I really, really, really hope you enjoy it. Hello, Riselle. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, Dana, I'm so excited to be on this podcast. Like, you have no idea. Thank you
I'm
so
so
much for the
ex-
invitation.
I'm so excited to have you. We're both just having a bit of a love fest here.
Yeah.
And I honestly, as I was before we were recording today, before I was getting ready to record, I was like, I think I'm a little bit in love with you.
You're totally having like a little like a crush moment, and it's completely mutual because once we
Oh,
started talking, we kind of like learned more about each other and all these little synchronicities that exist between
mm-hmm.
you and me, and that we were completely unaware of. So
I
yeah,
know.
yeah,
It's awesome.
it's so awesome. It really is.
Yes. So I have been following you are a content creator. You're also you're so many things, but
I wear
you
a lot of different hats. Yes.
yes, I started following you. I can't even remember how long it was. Your Traveling Island Girl account and blog. You're based in St. Martin
Mhm.
because I had been there, and I fell absolutely in love with the island, and that's probably how I found you because I was still trying to get as much as I could of Saint Martin,
Yeah.
and you just showcase your home so well, and you so why don't you tell us real quick, kinda where the traveling island girl came from? Because you are shifting and changing as we
Mhm.
all are, and expanding your business, but where was your start with that?
Well, it's I've always been an avid traveler. I've always loved traveling. It was something that we did from kids. My father always told us that it's so important to travel. It's like I
Mhm,
remember when like so many of us in Curacao, so I was born and raised in Curacao, like so many of us back then and even now, when we want to go to university and expand our education, we usually get off the island. Some go to the US, but the majority go to the Netherlands. I was one of them. So I was
mm,
living in the Netherlands at the time. And I remember my dad always saying, like, why are you spending your money on a ticket back home when you are now in Europe and you can kind of like explore that part of the world? So I think it was from an early age, travel was always super important. And I think at the time when I started the blog, The Traveling Island Girl, I wanted to become a nomad. I wanted to be one of those like bloggers that
mhm,
hop from place to place. And I was 40 at the time. So I was like much older than the average nomad
mhm,
too. So I wanted to kind of like, it was almost like I had this need to kind of like travel the world. But I wanted to concentrate more on the Caribbean just because I love this region. It is where I was born and bred. It was
mhm,
also it's important, I thought, to kind of highlight the different beauties and the differences in the islands and all of that. So I wanted to highlight that with travel stories. So I started the blog, and that was now in 2015,
I was
2016.
just gonna say,
Yeah.
when was that? And because I was trying to do the math, and that was the first one of the first coincidences we found in talking is that it's quite possible the one time I was in Saint Martin in 2015, staying at a timeshare that my, father-in-law owned, which was the last year, that was the
hmm
last year that because he sold it. You think you worked in the same place?
I worked in the same place, and now that I'm actually going back in time, and I'm looking like, okay, well, it was actually before that I was
Mhm,
working there, but 2015 was the time when I did that big transition from at that time I was having my own event planning company, which is so completely
mhm,
different than what I do now.
mhm,
But yeah, I was working in hospitality. I worked in hospitality for a very long time, so it was only natural for me to go into the travel business. So I became a content creator for travel. It started off with me starting off with a blog at age 40, which, as many women do, we go through a bit of a big transition at 40 when we
mhm,
start realizing, why am I living this life? Am I living it for me, or am I living it for
mhm.
my husband, for my society, for my family, for my kids? And I think I went through that exact same thing. I dyed my hair blonde and I cut it off completely. And
Oh my.
I jumped from a plane because I felt like I was rebelling. Like it was
Yeah.
almost like I was a teenager again. And it was all because I wasn't living my true life. I wasn't
Mhm,
living the way I wanted to live. And I was definitely not traveling the way I wanted to travel. I was always
mhm,
going where my husband wanted to go. We were always doing on trips what he wanted to do. And it was so not aligned with who I was. So I started the blog. And it was also a big outlet because you know what they say about bloggers, right? It's like
mhm.
it's the best, it's the cheapest form of therapy to just write. So yeah, that's how it started. And then it
Mhm,
kind of like morphed into something different. Women empowerment has always been like super important to me.
mhm,
So it was important for me to kind of like add that aspect into the traveling island girl. And then so my motto in life at that time was always to empower women through travel, to
I love
help
it.
them travel solo. Because I started traveling solo at that time as well. So solo travel was a big thing for me. And I
Mhm,
wanted to entertain people with true stories of what it's like an island woman in her
mhm,
40, navigating her way through life, but also through the different destinations that I was going to.
mhm. And the more you talk, like I said, when we first started talking, I feel like I know more about you than you know about me because I have been following you. And I think that's one of the things I was probably attracted to was that you were uh, closer in age to me. And
Hmm.
you, from the outside, I was like, wow, she's doing incredible things. And when you started that, as well, I was not doing probably a lot of the things that I wanted to be doing. I hadn't quite
Hmm.
figured them out yet. We all are always still figuring them out.
Oh
But as you
gosh,
said,
yes.
that the 40 years of
Hmm.
age, there is astrologically, there's all these cycles in life that we go through, and that one in particular where everybody has these like life-changing things start happening to them is between 40 and 42. It's
Hmm.
actually called your Uranus opposition. I don't know if you're familiar
Oh
with
no,
that.
I didn't. I
Yeah.
called it my midlife crisis.
Yeah, everybody does. It's like, well, I know you've probably heard of like Saturn return. You've heard of
Hmm.
Saturn
Hmm.
return. That's like around your 30s when you turn 30. And then around 40 is your Uranus opposition. And then coming up around 50, which you're getting close to, is your
Hmm.
Chiron return. And then there's like a second Saturn return at the end of your 50s. So I think that's why it's like
Wow.
anybody that feels that they're in their 40s or 50s and they're like, oh, it's too late and having all these regrets. No, it's like
Hmm.
that narrative is getting blown out of the water.
Hmm.
And I think that women like you are starting to prove that point that this is the time in life where we're really finally starting to come alive
Yes,
and being who we
absolutely.
want to be.
Hmm.
And I've wanted to talk to you for some time, but then when you started making this shift, I was just like, oh, this is perfect because we're just so lining up with this whole like empowering drive that we want to like help not wake people up, but encourage them to embrace a life that they
Hmm.
really want to live, right?
Oh gosh, it's so important, especially
Mhm.
for us women, because
Mhm.
everything is telling us that we're not okay to be living the life that we want, that we're not
Mhm.
supposed to. And
Mhm.
it's a constant, it's a battle for many, but I think that it's completely achievable. And I think that's what I want to tell women just by being by doing it myself. And I think
Mhm.
that is what I'm taking out of this whole thing. That's
Mhm.
my takeaway from this whole journey is that it's so important to show people that yeah, it's not easy, but it's totally doable.
Mhm.
And that's always been part of why I told my stories the way I experienced that. It's like whether it
Mhm.
was about a certain destination or about whatever was going on in my head at the time.
Mhm. And we have to get into your human design because when I reached out, I was just kind of like, I hope you want to come on. I want to talk to people who are doing cool things and see how their human design is actually like playing out,
Yeah.
whether you're aware of it or not. And you said you were very new to hearing about human design, right?
Completely new, but completely obsessed. Like
Mhm.
I was introduced, I think it was probably a podcast that I was listening to,
Mhm.
and I heard about human design for the first time. I was like, "Oh, what is that? Kind of
About how
interesting."
long
Let's
ago do you
let's.
think?
This is like a few months ago,
Oh, okay.
maybe beginning of the year, something like that,
Oh,
maybe
okay.
around January. So I'm really really new to it all. And then from that, every time it popped up, I was like kind of like interested in, but I don't understand much about it at all. But
Mhm.
one thing that was a big aha moment was when I did my chart and I found out what type I am.
Type.
Is that
Mhm.
what you say, a type?
Mhm.
And what the general things are about that type. And I was like, oh my God, that is so me.
Mhm. Yes,
And it was
for
so
everybody out
beautiful.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
she's
so
a manifesting
beautiful.
generator.
Yeah. And it was like when it came up, I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
this is me. This is just totally me."
It
So
is,
yeah.
yeah, you're a manifesting generator and what they call like a pure manifesting generator, which means it is your main authority. So there's different decision making authorities they call it, where
Mhm.
yours comes straight from that sacral center, that gut feeling, that yes or no feeling of something comes your way, kind of like when I approached you and you're like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's good. It's
It's
good
what I
timing.
call my full body yeses now.
Yes, yes. And it was life-changing for me too, to because I'm a generator, but I'm a emotional generator, which means I need a little more time where I have that sacral response as well, but my main authority is my emotional center which operates in waves. So there could be highs and lows and emotions. It's just mechanics. It's like amazing. You are undefined in that center. So it's like you feel big emotions and you can feel others' emotions, but they're not your emotions. You got to make sure you're not overly identifying or people pleasing or avoidant altogether because it's very intense to you, I imagine. Does that resonate? The intensity?
So true. Just before we hopped on
Mhm.
this record, I was started recording. I actually was having a session with my life coach, and
Mhm.
something happened to me recently because, as you know, I was traveling to Puerto Rico, and I don't
Mhm.
know if you know that part. I think we were
I
communicating, and I
I
missed my
did. I read
flight.
your email too.
Oh my goodness. So it was kind of like a real, oh my gosh, what is going on moment. And
Mhm.
my insecurities kind of like they came forefront and center. And
Mhm.
that was that really resonates with me when you're saying like all those feelings of people pleasing
Mhm.
and feeling all of the emotions because I'm really,
Mm.
really I feel a lot. I
It
really
is, yes.
feel a lot, and it's something that I try a lot of times, of course, not to. But I've learned on this journey that I'm on now. I've learned to actually feel through them in order to get to where I need to be. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
I
so interesting that you're mentioning the feelings because
well,
I didn't know about that was part of the
oh.
type.
Oh, it's a big part of the design if this center is defined or not, because
Hmm.
half of us are defined, half of us are undefined. And
Hmm.
so when you look at your chart, you'll see that there's the parts that are colored in and the parts that are white on your chart. And yours on that part is white, means it's undefined. And so what that means is that the emotional energy within you is experienced inconsistently, but mostly it's dependent on who you are around. Like, I imagine when you're by yourself, when you have time to decompress and get some distance, your emotions are probably pretty even, or, you're aware of what's yours, but it's engaging with other people, it can become more intense.
Hmm.
And it's quite possible that you were always seen as the more emotional one and that your emotions were all over the place. And like you said, you tried to hide it because it
Hmm.
felt so big.
It's a
But
lot.
but where we're undefined in our charts is where our wisdom comes from, because that's where we're learning about these energies. Because where you're undefined in the chart, those are areas where you are receiving energy from others, amplifying it and reflecting it back. So that's
Mhm.
why it feels so big to you. And if you don't mind me mentioning, the email I just read from you yesterday talking about your trip in Puerto Rico, that you had missed a flight, you felt a lot of like just shame and you were just beating yourself up and you had to go back
Mhm.
to your friend's house. And what you're saying now about, because in that email you're talking about how much you were feeling her, you felt that you were a bother, you felt like this
Mhm.
stuff, right? This probably wasn't true, and it may have been a
Yeah.
minor annoyance for her, but it made it so much bigger. Like, that is a perfect example of those emotions feeling bigger within you, but they're not necessarily your emotions. Does that make sense? It's like when you
Yeah,
said
it
you have to
does.
feel it and let it move through, that's
Exactly.
perfect. That's perfect for what you need to do, is to
Mhm.
recognize it's just a feeling, it's an emotion, and it's going to
Mhm.
pass, and it always will.
And
And
it's so interesting that you're bringing this up because I've noticed that about me that I'm a person that have become the person that can be all in when I'm in the moment and
mhm.
I'll be talking to somebody and you might now say, "Oh yeah, I'm having this coffee thing in my house. You should totally come." And I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, let's do it. I'm in." And then when I go home and I kind of like, ooh, I decompress and I get back to who I really am, what I'm supposed to feel. And we're like, I don't really feel like coffee. Why did I say I'm going? So this has been happening to me a lot of times that I'm
Mhm.
all in and I'm like, yes, let's go for it. And
Mhm.
then I have time to kind of like think about it. And I was like, don't really feel like doing
Yeah.
that.
Or yeah,
Yeah.
was that me, or is it the circumstances around it? Yeah, it's a and it may have been you wanted to in that moment, but like you said,
Hmm.
there are influences in your chart where you're definitely influenced from other people. That one in particular, There's also you have undefined head center and undefined root center, and those are like pressure centers that are always like the head pressures you to like you're thinking about things that necessarily don't even concern you, but you're trying to like figure out everybody's problems.
Yeah.
And then the root center is like that pressure to, because I have those undefined as well, of like getting things done really quick and feeling under this pressure to even do other people's work for
Mm-hmm.
them, because as a manifesting generator, you have a ton of energy. You do have a lot of energy, and it needs to be used up. And it
Yeah.
is a good use of your energy to be involved in lots of different things. So, do you have usually a lot of different little side projects, not even just work, but just things that you like to do?
I mean, just look at the Traveling Island Girl brand itself. It has, I'm doing so many, like, if you ask me what I am in the sense of
Mm-hmm.
what I do, it's very hard for me to just pick one because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
travel writer, I'm a content creator, I'm a videographer, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a podcaster,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm going into coaching, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
into healing and motivational coaching. So it's there's so much. I'm an event planner. I'm going back to the event planning days by planning this retreat that I'm planning. So it's just I'm so many things rolled up
Mm-hmm.
into one that sometimes it does become a little confusing. And for me, again, that big feeling. And I now also, because of human design, I now understand why I was always going from job to job to job to job. Like if you go and you look at my resume, I was always jumping after a
Mm-hmm.
year of being in a job. In a job, I had to jump over to another one. And I used to tell myself I get bored easily. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I get bored. I've done it. I did it. Time to move on. I think that's what it is for me
Mm-hmm.
now. Now that I can look back on those days, I think it's more about I've learned what I needed to learn. Time to move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
I have my passion is so in different things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm always changing things that I'm doing. So yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. It also, yeah, that generator, because a lot of people attribute manifesting generators to just being those like multitaskers and having the multi-passionate
Hmm.
kind of thing. I think it is a generator quality that defines sacral center in particular, because I've done the same. I've gathered lots of things along the way that I'm like, oh, I'm a jewelry artist, or I'm going to
Hmm.
be a yoga teacher, or I'm like, oh, now I do meditation, now I'm into Reiki, now I'm into all
Hmm.
this other stuff that I'm like, and I always thought, oh, this is going to be my thing. But then I would kind of master it and then just be like, I don't know that I want to be doing that all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
feeling guilty. But generators have this like, they call it a stair step learning curve, where we have these jumps in mastery where we're responding to things and we're learning things, and we're, because generators are meant to have this sort of mastery over life in the sense of
Hmm.
what it means to be a human by responding to life and what lights us up and what we can do with that and what we can build with that. And but there's always these plateau spaces that we get into, where a lot of times is when we do jump ship or we go somewhere else or we do something because the energy doesn't feel like it's there.
Yes.
But if it's something we're really committed to, it's like a pulling back of the bow and the arrow. It's
Hmm.
getting ready to propel you into the next thing. And because I would say, you tell me, underlying all of that, of all these different things you were sampling, is still this trajectory in one direction, don't you
Hmm.
think?
I'm
Of
looking back into what I've done with my life so far. There is
mhm,
definitely one big passion that I haven't let go of, which is women
mhm,
empowerment. And
mhm,
it's always been there. I've done it when I had my own event planning company. I used to plan like little events for women to give them an excuse to get out of the house and let their hair down. And now with the travel part of my business, it started to, the whole point of it was that. And now with the retreats, it's just going back. The
mhm,
motivational and healing coaching, that's going back into empowering women to live the life that they truly are meant to be living. So
mhm,
it's there's definitely an underlying passion, and it's there. It's definitely
mhm.
there in everything that I've done so far.
Yeah, I can feel it. And so did you, when you've learned a little bit about human design, did you dig into your profile at all? The 6-2
I
profile?
I try to, but I'm not understanding it much. So I'm
Okay.
hoping, Dana, that you can enlighten it for me because there's all these numbers and I
I
have
know.
the human design app on my phone and I'm
Mhm.
trying really hard to understand the charts. It's like I just gave up
It's
on the
okay.
chart
It's
entirely
okay.
because it's just it looks like a big puzzle to me. I have
Mhm.
no idea how to read it. So if you
I'm
could
here for you.
share some light on it, please.
All right, so you are a 6-2 manifesting generator. So the profile, there's the element of human design, which is the Chinese I Ching, and it's the hexagrams. And so have you ever seen like the hexagrams? It's like 6 lines stacked on top of each other kind of thing.
Mhm.
And basically each um, hexagram of the I Ching is what we call the gates in human design. And they're really the human archetypes, really. They're all these different expressions, these themes of humanity. And so each theme, each gate has these different flavors to it, the lines 1 through 6. You're a 6-2. So when you looked at your chart, you have the 2 columns of numbers, and the one side on the right-hand side is the moment you were born, right?
Okay.
And oh, hey, kitty. Oh my
I know.
gosh. I love the
Kitty wants
cats.
to make a
I
little
know.
impression,
That's
a little
fine.
appearance here.
I love it. I had to lock mine out because they'll talk to me too while I'm trying to do this.
Oh yeah, no, this one doesn't
Um,
talk, but he wants to be in the whole show.
He's so sweet. Uh, and then the other side that might be in a different color are the ones I use all the time. It's red. It's the design side, which is the vehicle, and that's like 3 months before you were born. We're not going to get into all the mechanics of that, but basically, the top 4 numbers you see at your chart is your sun and earth on your personality side, and the sun and earth placement on the design side. And your sun is in gate 21. That's the theme of the main expression of your energy is the themes around, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And it's 21.6. That means the moment you were born has that 6 flavor to things. So what does that mean? Okay. So the 6 on the one side, 2 on the other. So the profile is like the character you play. They say in human design, your type is the role. You're a manifesting generator. Your role basically is to be building and to be finding faster, more efficient ways to do things. And you maybe do like take, you know, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back sometimes because you're meant to get your hands into life and try to find more efficient ways for the rest of us. So your line 6, as a 6-2, the most important thing, and this is why I love hearing your journey, and I know this is going to help a lot. So a line 6 is called the role model. Okay. And right away, that has this heavy connotation of like, oh, I have to be a role model. But the line 6 has what they call a triphasic life cycle. So that means the first part of your life around up until your first Saturn return, up until around 30, the line 6 acts more like a line 3. What that means is you really spent a lot of time, possibly in the first 30 of years of life, trying everything. And it sounds like you did. You were born in one place, you schooled somewhere else, you had lots of different experiences because that's your experimental phase in life where you are literally like, I'll try it. I'll try this, I'll try that, any kind of experience. You're nodding your head, so that's sounding
Oh yeah, it's definitely resonating right now. It's
yeah.
like sounds like it's almost like you're reading my life story.
Well, and then when you go past your Saturn return, you enter the phase that you're in now, which they call for the line 6 is being on the roof. Have you ever heard that expression? No.
No.
Okay. So what that means is, okay, the line 6 gets to the point, those first 30 years where they've been experimenting, they've tried and they've done everything, and they get kind of tired. And they get kind of like, you know what? I don't really feel like I need to do everything anymore. I think it's
Mhm.
time in life where I just kind of do what everybody else does, just kind of pull back my energy in life and spend this roof phase, they call it. If you think about someone literally like sitting up on a roof, looking out over the neighborhood, seeing how everybody else does life, and just kind of trying that on for a while. And really,
Mhm.
it's a period of resting It's a period of integrating all the things that you've learned. It's a period of healing, and it's also just kind of where people tend to build marriages or families or business. So it's just this kind of life phase,
Mhm.
integrating, healing. And then around 50 is when that Chiron return I was telling you about earlier. Around 50 is when the line 6 has to come off the roof, they call it. And you are so ready to come
Oh,
off the roof,
yes.
because this is where you step into that role model phase of life where you're like, okay, I've tried everything. I've seen how everybody else does it. I have learned this. I've tried this, and this. I'm going to take this part that works for me, that I'm going to leave it behind. And you really step into the full expression of who you are, and you become a role model to other people by just being yourself. Okay. That's the line 6. The line 2 is the what they call the hermit. So there's a lot of hermiting energy in the sense that the line 2 is the natural. This is you're kind of a natural learner. You may see how someone has done something and you'll be like once or twice you're like, "Okay, I got this. I can do it now." And you'll just dive in and you'll figure it out on your own. And you're actually meant to do the things in life that come easy to you, because those are the things that people are going to search you out for. And so the hermit is why they call it the hermit, is because the hermit has their own natural process and they need a lot of time alone to figure that out. And then when they know what it is they're good at, or they have the skill, they don't have to know necessarily. Other people
Mhm.
will recognize it in you and they will say, "Hey, uh, I think you can help me with this," or "Hey, you're really good at that. Will you help me with this," kind of thing. And so the 6-2 Roma or 6-2 profile, I know quite a few of you now. And my daughter's one, and she's in the early phase of life though. She's only
Mhm.
27. And so like I said, you're really stepping into like beautifully. You're right on time. You're right on the right path of what you're stepping into.
Yep.
Because like you said, you're starting this coaching business.
Mhm.
What are you calling this new phase of what you're doing?
Like you mean the brand itself,
Yeah.
or yeah? So I'm calling it the Island Girl Awakening.
I love it.
It's just so true. It's just, and I don't want to give up on the traveling island girl. I will always be the
Mm-mm.
traveling island girl, but I think this is just so beautiful to integrate that because it's really showcases what I'm going through at the moment. I'm
Mhm.
not the same
Mhm.
person that started with all the ideas
Mm-mm.
of the traveling island girl before. I'm evolving into something else, and I'm taking my audience with me. Is what
Ye
I would like to see.
Yeah, you totally what I said when you're stepping in this role model, so much of it
Mhm.
is those sun and earth gates I was talking about. That's what's called your incarnation cross.
Mhm.
It's like the main theme of your life, of the energy that you are here bringing. And when you really start living fully as yourself and you're living in alignment and you're honoring your energy, it just naturally, I mean, it's there anyhow, but you know how there's a high and low expression of
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
And the more that you honor what's right for you and you follow what's your sacral response and what it's leading you to and living in alignment, it just shines brighter. And I can tell that you're doing that more and more, because if I look at the gates, the themes of your incarnation cross in particular, they're your sun gate, 21. So you are your birthday's April 4th,
Mhm.
right? Hmm.
Correct.
And so what is that? What does that make you? Are you a
I'm an Aries.
Aries? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was I was trying to think of where we were right now, what day it is now. I can't even remember. But anyway, so your Sun Gate 21 is it's called the hunter, the huntress. Some people refer to it as like the accountant, but basically it's about being a natural leader. And you're a great there's a lot of camaraderie, trailblazing for the benefit of the tribe. Like it's a very powerful gate, and it is, other people see you as a leader. You speak from your heart, you lead by example that inspires
Mhm.
loyalty, and you do it all in service to
Mhm.
others, right? And the earth energy there of gate 48 is referred to as the well, and that is somebody who does have the depth. And lucky for you, uh, you have gate 48, but it also connects to the gate on the other end, which is a channel, which means there's a free flow of energy there, which is called skills. But basically, you have the depth. You can go deep. You can really perfect a skill, something that you really want to work at, and you have the ability to bring it out into the world. And so this combination of acquiring the knowledge and going deep, and you have the experience and the wisdom that others are looking for, and you have that power. And I geek out on this stuff, I'm sorry. And because I see it, so like you're doing well. And then on your other side of your chart, your unconscious sun. So they call it the unconscious because they like to say it's the things that you're not aware of. Like they say you're the personality side where you were the moment you were born,
Hmm.
we can identify with those more. I don't know. I go back and forth with that because I think with wisdom, I mean, with age comes wisdom, and you
Hmm.
get, especially if you're doing self-reflection, you get in
Oh,
touch with these
absolutely.
energies and it becomes less subconscious or unconscious. But basically, on that side of the chart, your sun energy there, it's not a great name in the I Ching for it's called the Marian Maiden, but it's often referred to as the gate of ambition. But it is about being able to have this focused effort and dedication and pulling yourself up by the bootstraps kind of thing, and knowing what needs to be in place to succeed and making sure all your ducks in a row and all of these things. Like, so you see these sun energies of you are definitely like powerful energies. Like you are a leader, but it's a leader in service to others, right? It's not
Hmm.
just about you, and you have a lot of starting energy. I mean, you're a manifesting generator, and your unconscious earth gate is a gate of like starting things, of getting
Hmm.
things moving. You're really good at you bring it to the table. And does that, you're shaking your head, so
I'm
I'm
shaking
you're
my head
resonating.
like so almost violently because this is all like it's almost like I'm sitting with somebody who has known me since birth until today. That has been
Oh,
by my side every single day of my life because what you're describing, I'm like shaking my head like yes, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. Yes, it's
Well,
me. It's totally me. It's
maybe
completely
we are.
me.
Maybe we have been connected for a long time. We just now
I
get to
think so
finally meet.
too.
But this is one part I really want to share because I've really been digging into and geeking out on this one particular position in the chart, the north node. There's the north and south nodes of the chart, and we just did, Haley and I did an episode by the
I
time
was
this airs a couple weeks
listening.
ago. Did you
I
listen
was
to it?
listening to it and I was like, what the hell are notes? You like you're gonna have to explain this to me because that
Well,
is the one thing I didn't really understand. But I was like, I'm so happy to be sitting here with you today because I'm sure you're gonna explain it to me now.
I it's one of those things that I'll just it's a simple explanation that I'm happy with, that I don't need to get too deep into, because we'll say over and over again, I'm not an astrologist. I'll just tell you what they say it represents. And it's really because it is just like a calculation in the birth chart. It has to do with the Earth's rotation around the sun and the moon's rotation around the earth. There are these certain points where they intersect on the regular, the north node and the south node, they call it. And so wherever those were at the moment you were born, that's the calculation they're talking about. And so in astrology, they talk about the the south node is like your past life kind of energy, and your north node is like this life and what you're learning. And in human design, it's pretty much the same thing, but it's like the south node energy is the energy that, yeah, you came in with. It's an innate skill, it's an innate energy that you have, that you're familiar with.
Hmm.
And then the north node is what you're here in this life to be kind of stepping into, learning more about and mastering that energy. And
Hmm.
so this for you, your north and south node on the personality side, is what makes you a manifesting generator. It connects that sacral center to the throat center. That's what makes you a manifesting generator.
Hmm.
So your south node's in gate 20, north node's in gate 34. And I was just doing this is coming up in May. We just recorded yesterday an episode about the energies of May coming up. And so gate 20 is a gate of presence. It's like in the now. It's very much learning how to be in the now, to be still, like there's only the now. However, if it's in the shadow, it could be a more kind of all over the place kind of energy and not really being present. Obviously, that's what it.
Mhm.
But what's really incredible is that, especially connected to the gate 34, that channel is called the channel of charisma. And it is this like magnetic power that you have, this magnetic energy that just draws people to you, because it is all that power of the sacral center, which is that beautiful, sustainable, just pure life force energy, being able to get into action, being able to just, you're supposed to still respond to life, but then if it's something you
Mhm.
want to do, you can start making it happen fast. But really, as a nodal placement, like I said, it's all about this magnetism that you have. It's about personal empowerment. It's about achieving things that could seem impossible, but you're like this balanced powerhouse. And so you do tend to radiate this power, and others see you as you really are, which is this, you may not always feel it, but they see
Mhm.
you as this confident, purposeful, like powerhouse energy. And it's there for you. It's your power to achieve your goals. And even when you're faced with doubts and limiting beliefs and everything, it is like your attractor beam almost. And being this north node placement, that is something that attracts really, but also your audience, the people that are going to be looking to you as, how do you do that? What is that empowerment like? What does it feel like? What, I feel like I need that in my life. And so
Mhm.
that's what draws them to you, as long with the other stuff as well. And it's just like your energies of your incarnation cross when they're in your orbit, which I love that you're going to be doing these like retreats and in-person
Mhm.
things, that affects them. Just being around them helps empower them. Your energy, they get to like kind of borrow that and understand what it feels like when they're in auric contact with you. And so
Wow.
you can trust that the people that are coming to you, that's what they're coming for, and that's what they want. And so that's why it's so perfect that you're finally you're stepping into this power and
Mhm.
owning it, because oh my gosh, we need it. They need it.
Uh,
We need it.
I'm
And
so
you
so
got it.
happy for you saying that, and it's just it's almost like another like kick in my butt to tell me that okay, yes, I am on the right path, and that
Mm,
it will resonate with the people that it needs to resonate with, and it will attract the people that need to be a part of this retreat.
mhm,
And it's just so funny that we're talking about this now. It's like I said, it's like just before we started recording, I was talking to my life coach, and we were kind of like talking about pretty much the same thing, that it's just so amazing. I'm just so happy that I did this today. I think it's the only thing that I can say. It's just wow. I'm a little lost for some of
It's
the
okay.
lost
It's
for
a lot to
words right
take
now.
in.
It's like yeah, but at the same time, like you said, I've been shaking my head because it's like so true, all of this.
Mhm,
And I think you are right. I didn't build an audience just because I was putting out great content. I think
mhm,
I build an audience because, and the majority of people are people like yourself who have been reading my
mhm,
stuff since 2015, 2016, 2017, when they are still there. They are
mhm.
still reading my stories, even with all of the little transitions and evolutions throughout my story, they're still there. So yeah, I thank you for that. I thank
Yeah.
you for kind of like reminding me that yes, I do still have a way of telling people how I want to teach women that yeah, if this was possible for me, it's possible for you as well. And I'm
Mhm.
happy that my audience is still there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what it feels like in person, like because like just, as I said, I've been following you, and
Mhm,
I always did feel that from you, which is like you said, it's why I kept following you, was because I felt that you genuinely wanted to share with your audience
mhm,
the love of where you're at. And this, I get this sense of joy from you a lot of times. Like, I know you're human, and I know we have our ups and downs and everything,
mhm,
but just you always do feel like you're sharing your heart and you're encouraging
Yeah.
people to like look at the good in life and let's be
Yeah.
joyful. And that's where, I'm going into as well, is like 'cause the whole reason I do human design and why it finally feels so aligned for me is because of moments like this where
Hmm.
the skill set that I have of like going deep and researching and learning everything. You said it's a puzzle. For me, it's like it's a
Yeah.
wonderland.
I
I'm
know.
like, oh, I want to learn this puzzle, is because it is showing me as well my own design and the things that are within it that shows we are aligned in a lot of ways of empowerment. And for me, it's specifically around being that support to show people that it is absolutely part of your purpose in life to be exactly who you want to be and doing the work you want to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And that doing work that you want to do is so important to you being
Oh my
happy.
gosh. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Which I think that is also why I was so drawn to human design to begin with, because it's a way of making me understand why I'm feeling a certain way, why I'm acting in a certain way.
Mhm.
So, and that is just, it's kind of like the reinforcement I needed to kind of like
Mhm.
go, you know what? It's okay to pivot at
Mhm.
this point in my life. And it's only natural that I'm
Mhm. It
about to
is.
pivot. I'm supposed to make this big change and big
Yeah.
transition in my life right now, from just travel content into a
Mhm.
more personalized, more women empowerment, more coaching. I'm
Mhm.
supposed to make this transition, and it's okay. The people that want to be there for that will be there. The ones who
Mm.
want to be more into travel, they'll I'm gonna have to leave them behind. But I
I think there'll be
cannot
more people.
stay. I don't know. Who
I
knows?
think
We'll
there will be. I
see.
mean, like you said, there's gonna be a little shakeup
Mhm.
possibly, but
Yeah,
like
definitely a shakeup.
you yeah, you're determined in the your determination in the direction that you want to go and feeling
Hmm.
it in your heart is the magnetism that's going to be there. Yes, it might feel scary at first, but I
Hmm.
100% believe that there's nothing that like the universe does not support the idea of us following our heart and just being like, that's completely wrong.
Yeah.
It's like you may have to learn how to get there and find the right way that feels really good.
Hmm.
Or honestly, what a lot of human design is deconditioning and getting rid of everybody else's voices in
Yeah.
your head that are telling
Yeah.
you it's not the right way to go.
Oh my
And
gosh. And boy, do I have a lot of, not
oh
only in
yeah.
my head, but only in actual real life, people telling me that, some, not a lot, but people that are
Mm-hmm.
just not understanding why I'm making this transition. And it's just, I've always been authentic. I never believed in being somebody I'm not. It's just now I can put those feelings into words. But I was always
Mm-hmm.
this person. And one of the things, and it's so funny that you say that, is like that I live in my authenticity, is
Mm-hmm.
when people see me on my YouTube channel and then they see me in real life and they are in shock that I'm the same as what I am on
Oh.
a YouTube video. And I'm like, who else am I supposed to be? Was I supposed to like come up with this fictional persona of like this person that's going to tell you all about your travels? And then when you see
Mm-hmm.
me in real life, I'm not this bubbly. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not this positive. I'm not always smiling. I am
Mm-hmm.
that person. It's
Yeah.
exactly who I am. But I realized after, especially after I started my own podcast, that yes, there are people like that. There are people who are not in their authenticity. There are
Mm.
people that come over as really super bubbly and happy all the time. And when you get them on the show, they're like, "Oh, I can't get a word out of them." So it's yeah. So I get it now, but yeah, it's like it's again. I'm going back to being at a complete loss of words because this all is resonating so
Mm-hmm.
deeply with me right now. Yeah, you have no idea. Thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much for this.
Oh, you're welcome. And one more thing I'll leave you with, and then we'll wrap this up for now, is
For now, because I think you and I can have
I
a
think yeah,
conversation for
yeah. I think
ages.
I think we will. I think we'll have many more. Um, so also in your chart, the placement for Mercury. So in astrology and in human design, they talk about the Mercury placement is your message. It's what you're here to share and talk about with people, and this will help in your messaging as well. And I just had a little peek. I hadn't even looked at it, but I was looking at your chart because you do have a Undefined G-Center, which is the heart center, which is the center for love and direction, which
Mhm.
means you are really able to identify with others, and you probably try on lots of identities and see how people do things, and you can be somewhat of a social chameleon and mesh with a lot of different types of people,
Mm,
which is really a gift,
absolutely.
obviously, with what you do.
Do you
Um,
think so? I was like sometimes I kind of like there were times that I felt like was like a little getting lost in who
you
am I
can,
exactly? Because
yes.
you're always adjusting yourself to other people.
Mhm. You
Yeah.
can lose yourself, but there's like you're not meant to be exactly one thing. Like there is many facets to you, and it is informed by all the people around you. And it's and the other thing about this center, which is really important when it's undefined, is your environment plays a huge part in like your actual physical environment, how you feel in a certain environment. If it feels good, that means that environment's good, and the people there are people that are right people. And it doesn't even have to be uh like a whole island. It could be like walking into a restaurant. If it feels good, interactions will be good. If it
Mm-hmm.
feels a little off, or like you were talking about the wanting to go and do something or being invited to do something but then
Mm-hmm.
maybe didn't feel right, or did you go to that did you go to that
The
coffee
thing
or
that
whatever you're talking
I
about?
well, that was an example of
Mhm.
just me putting an example in place. But
Mhm.
yeah, there were other things that I ended up canceling because it just didn't feel okay. It didn't
Yeah.
feel like it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I was probably, and then that, of course, you now bringing up
Mhm.
that I'm so good at the chameleon effect, so
Mhm.
let's call it that,
Mhm.
is it makes
Yeah.
sense because I do get completely lost in when somebody is excited about something and
Mhm.
they're telling me about it. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it. Until when I get home, I'm like,
Yeah.
not a good
Well,
idea.
there is an influence there, but you do have that center undefined, and just being aware of it, which I think it'll be easier for you now because you are cultivating more and more self-awareness all the
Hmm.
time, and you're
Hmm.
understanding what's yours and what's not. But the one you do have one gate defined there, and it's your Mercury gate. This is the message you're here, and it's called the what's the test? Spirit of the self or something like that. Love of spirit. That's what it is. I love this because it is this gate that shows us that we are humans, but we are connected to something bigger than ourselves. And it is finding that connection between uh, spirit, self, mind, body, all of this stuff, and finding that spiritual connection and knowing that everything that we're here to do is in service of something really higher than what bigger than us kind of thing, and seeing the big picture and tapping into that. And that's also, I think, part of your messaging, because it's like we've got these daily lives, but and we've had these things happen, and we're doing all these things, but don't we want to experience more? Like, don't we know that there's more, and how do we get in touch with that? Like, how do we
Hmm.
do that? And I think you really bring that to the table as well, of that spiritual side of things, in the sense that that love and connection. I think so.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Wow. I'm just so grateful to be here right now.
I know, I'm
So
so
grateful to
grateful
be
that
a
it all
part of your
lined up.
podcast.
I know it
Oh,
all lined up at the
absolutely.
right time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I know there's still a little bit of time left. You have a retreat coming up in June in St.
Hmm.
Martin.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit, about what
Oh
they
my
could
gosh,
expect
yes,
and what you're offering?
absolutely. Well, I'm having this Island Awakening luxury retreat that I'm
Mhm.
planning. I'm hosting it from June 4th until the 9th in St. Martin,
Mhm.
where I actually currently live. And it's a way for me to share my home with people who have never been and even those who have been before. Just
Mhm.
share it in a more authentic way, showing them the real St. Martin, if you will. And but also diving a bit into the more personal stuff. So there's going to be guided meditation, there's going to be breath work, sound bath. We're going to have group sessions. I want to share with other women what I have gone through and what I have done and the tools that have helped me become the
Mm-hmm.
person that I am today, because I so believe that it can help them as well, to get them on the right path to living the life that they're supposed to be living, to live the life that they love. And that is so important to me right now. So I definitely wanted to kind of like put together those two things, those two passions of me, really, those
Mm-hmm.
two of my biggest passions, women empowerment, but also travel. And then so this is what this retreat is. You're gonna have all of those travel experiences. You're gonna have a day trip to Anguilla, which is like 30 minutes away. I
Oh,
mean, can you
okay.
imagine? It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be
I did that
amazing.
in
You did
St.
that,
When
right?
we took the sailboat over to Anguilla, and it
Ah,
was,
and
I've
Anguilla
never seen a
is
beach like that in my life.
stunning. It's known for its perfect beaches. It
Oh,
is
it's
known for it.
beautiful.
Not that St. Martin doesn't have good beaches. St. Martin beaches
Amazing.
like are extraordinary, but it's just that day trip that we get to do to Anguilla. There's this sailboat 4 course or 3 course dinner rather on a sailboat at sunset that I want to share with these
It's
ladies.
gorgeous.
There's a beach lounge, what I like to call FLFL, which is like a fudging long French lunch. I want them to experience that.
I
This
want
is
to
be
experience
on a
that.
beach, let your hair down, have a rosé if you want to or not, whatever is what you want to do. But it's gonna be like a lounging day on the beach. We're gonna have like, of course, an island tour where I'm gonna show them all of the important parts and really beautiful spots of St. Martin. There's all of that plus that awakening and that
Mm,
transformation that they get to do on an island. I mean, it cannot be more perfect than
it
that.
cannot affect.
It's gonna be so, so good. And I'm so excited for it.
I can tell, and everybody can feel that energy. And at the airing of this, hopefully, if there's a spot left, you should grab it for sure. And I'm sure that you're going to be doing more of these because it
Oh,
just
for
feels like a
sure.
natural progression
Hmm.
of your sharing energy, and
Hmm.
it's so so beautiful. And I just really want to thank you for being here today and sharing just even this little bit of yourself with us. And I really, really appreciate you. And anything else you want to tell people where they can
Uh,
find you or?
yes, sure. You can find me on the Traveling Island Girl, which is my main channel, and that is the same thing all over the board. So on
Mm-hmm,
YouTube and Instagram and on Facebook. I also have my Paradise Perspective podcast, which is
mm-hmm,
where I share authentic ways of experiencing the islands in the Caribbean and through the perspective of a local. So I interview a
mm-hmm,
lot of island people, have them share their best parts about their island with the audience. And then I have Island Girl Awakening, which is
mm-hmm,
my new branch out kind of thing that we were talking about, where I am doing more of the coaching, the healing, but I'm doing that by sharing my own stories and how I got to the tools that I now use in life to
mm-hmm,
help me stay on the path of growth and also on the path of
mm-hmm,
living my best life. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Well, we look forward to everything that you're going to be doing. And when you launch your podcast, please let me know. You're new because you're going to do a new podcast, right?
Yes, I feel like this
Did
calling,
I
like I
just
need
commit
to
you to
start.
it?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Now I have to do it. But I feel like it's been calling me to do so, because as
Mm-hmm,
much as I love sharing travel information and travel tips, recommendations, suggestions, and all of that good stuff and travel stories, I feel like my time has come to kind of like share a more deeper, sensitive, and also deeply personal part of me. And I want to take my audience, or at least a part of my audience that's interested in it, I want to take them on that journey and
mm-hmm.
hopefully get them to also start living their best life. That is my mission
I
in
love
life,
it.
I feel. So
It is. It
yeah, so
is.
I've been
I will
doing
give
it on
that
my
to you.
blog, and I'm gonna do it also in my newsletter. I've been doing it
Mm-hmm.
with my Instagram, and now I feel it's time for the Island Girl Awakening to take a space in the podcast world as well. So
She
it's
has
coming soon.
awakened.
I have
Right.
awakened.
Well, thank you so much, Riselle, for being here. And I look
Thank you for the
forward to
invitation.
chatting with you again soon.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there you have it. And what did I tell you? I mean, do you not just want to spend a week in the Caribbean or more with Riselle? I mean, I left this conversation, as I said, just filled with so much joy and such an expansive feeling. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like to get in person with her and to feel that physically. and to not just be around that energy, but to share in her enthusiasm for the work that she's doing and the beautiful island where she lives and all the other parts of the Caribbean that she wants to share with all of us. And I just think she's such a beautiful human, and I cannot wait to see what she's going to be doing. So make sure you check out the details in the show notes, the work that she's doing, her website, thetravelingislandgirl.com. Read some of her blogs. She's an amazing writer, and she'll have all the retreat details there as well. I mean, do not sleep on this. If it calls to you at all, I guarantee you're going to want to take her up on that offer and go spend some time in St. Maarten with her, because wow, what a treat. So thank you so much for listening. And I really hope that y'all have an amazing rest of your week. Bye for now. Well, you made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.